कुछ समझाएं. Check out health, culture, education. Get knowledgeable folks. Evening live show. Evening live show. Evening live show. Evening live show. मायूसों को हंसाएं, बिछड़ों को मिलाएं. Add on music, entertainment, and joy to your lives. Evening live show. Evening live show. Evening live show. Evening live show.
महक, दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा डर क्या है?
मेरे ख्याल से हारने का, या कहें असफलता का.
बिल्कुल, कई लोग तो दोस्तों खेल के मैदान में उतरते ही नहीं हारने के डर से.
लेकिन कई लोग ऐसे भी हैं जो अपनी हार को अपनी जीत में बदलने में विश्वास रखते हैं.
बिल्कुल, और आज आपको हम ऐसी ही एक शख्सियत से मुलाकात करवाएंगे जो हर हार से डरने के बदले हार से मजबूत होना सिखाता है.
बिल्कुल, आज हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में मौजूद हैं बिली लिम, जो है तो मलेशिया के, लेकिन उनकी किताब डेयर टू फेल ने उन्हें दुनिया भर में बहुत ख्याति और एक अलग पहचान उनकी बनाई.
जी हाँ, जहां बाकी सारे मोटिवेशनल एक्सपर्ट सफलता के गुर बतलाते हैं, वहीं बिली असफलता को सहजता से स्वीकार करने के बाद उसे सफलता की ओर मोड़ना सिखाते हैं. तो आइए खुद बातचीत करते हैं बिली से.
और हमारे साथ बिली से बातचीत करने के लिए स्टूडियो में मौजूद हैं मिस्टर राजीव कुमार. आप दोनों का स्टूडियो में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Thank you, Mehak and Saurabh. We welcome Billi to India and to our studios.
Thank you.
You've heard of many gurus who talk of success, as the two anchors have just pointed out. But there would be very few people who talk of failures, and failures which become the focus for success. Welcome, Billi.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have just come to India.
Yes.
Today itself, and this is virtually a trip where you're tasting the waters in India for a book which is titled Dare to Fail, where you enumerate and take into account several case studies where people from high life to the grassroots level have dared to fail. What is the underlying theme that you have taken up in this book?
The underlying theme is that knowing about failure is very, very important. Now, lots of people always think about success without preparing themselves for the other side of the success story. In other words, the disappointment, the struggle, the sorrows, the obstacle they must undergo. In other words, that part of the journey is what we are focusing on. That people should not be afraid of it. They should understand it and start to move on even after meeting them towards their goal.
From your own personal history, you've risen from a very humble background, where even to make the economic ends of the day meet for a host of 14 children was practically impossible for your parents.
Yes.
So what is the mantra that you picked up from your own environment that has prodded you to go into writing such a theme?
Yeah. In fact, what happened to me is I have a family which I would say failed because my parents were not in harmony to each other. And I have built businesses, and businesses have failed, you know. And I have experienced a relationship, love relationship, and they have failed, you know. My girlfriend actually ran away when my business failed, you know. Actually running away during my birthday, you know, and that make it worse, you see. So all this have put me into a situation whereby I was very upset. I was very disappointed. I begin to feel jealous of people succeeding, you know. So one day, it dawned to me that this failing experience actually can teach me a lot of things. And so it frees me, it really freed me. Until then I realized that I must share this particular knowledge about failure to all people. So that if they fail to attempt something, fail to achieve something, they will not give up so easily.
In your book, you have tried to quantify the value of failing. How would you quantify this in real terms?
Yes, if I were to quantify it, I must quantify it to compare with another thing. The value of failure and the value of success. Right now in our present society, everybody look up on people succeeding, success so important, and the pressure is so high. And when a person fails, People look down on them, they spit on them, you know, and they don't want to be their friend anymore, or the wife will run away, or the girlfriend run away, or the boyfriend run away, you know, because they don't realize that, you know. There is big value to learn, things to learn from failure that can help a person to succeed the second time.
And another chapter, which is the consequence of failing in society. I mean, this is common to all societies. As I said, that you're tasting waters in India. Where would you see an entry in this society where the issues that you've raised in your book would be appreciated?
I realize back home in Malaysia, we have newspaper news from India, and one of the very particular thing that I pick up is there were a lot of students, after they fail in the exam, they commit suicide. Or somebody SMS them wrongly. At first they thought they failed, but actually they didn't fail just because of that SMS. They also, you know, wanted to hang themselves, you know. It came up in the news in Malaysia, not only here, you know. So I felt that there is a very high pressure on the people here now. Parents wanting their children to succeed so that they have a good job, they have a good career, you know. But here is one point I want to let all the parents know, you know. Failing in one subject does not mean the person is a failure, you know. Some people are very good in writing, some people are good in drawing, they are not good in everything, you know. That's why there is this, from Harvard University, they have studied and found out that they are about multiple intelligence. Some people are good in singing, you know, so they do very well at singing. Some people are very good in acting, but maybe when you ask them to do maths, they fail, you know. But that does not mean that they are failure. So that is very, very important right now in our new world.
In fact, this would be a good case study for you. Several farmers in the southern part of this country committed suicide because economically they could not put up with the bad crop season. What advice would go down to such people to, you know, convert those consequences into a challenge for a renewed life?
See, for the farmers, they wake up very early every morning, you know, and they see the sun rising every morning, and then the sun set. And when the sun sets, next morning the sun will rise again. And every day the sun will rise again. In fact, it is a very powerful message, you know, that the sun will rise and the sun will set, you know. In other words, if they have bad times, the time will come whereby they will have good times again. So they must understand this wisdom. This is actually a real life thing, but not many people go deep into it, you know. By looking at nature, we begin to know that there are good time, there are high tide, there are low tide. Therefore, if the crop this year may not be good, maybe the next year will be good. But sometimes there may be time when maybe they have to change profession. See, there are people who lost a job, and instead of committing suicide, that failure in the job pushed them to another business, and they become very successful in the other business. I've seen a lot of this thing happening.
Billi, by birth and by practice, you are a Buddhist.
Yes.
Has that the Buddhist philosophy played a role in your thinking?
Yes. What happened was, I was not a Buddhist by birth, actually. We were actually ancestor worshipper. Until the age of 33, when my business collapsed, you know, I nearly went down with my business. I nearly committed suicide because I was so attached to the business. Until somebody gave me a small booklet, which at that time I do not know was a teaching of the Buddha. You know, he said that you must detach yourself from the business. In other words, the business fail, it doesn't mean that you fail, no. And because of that, it saved my life. I tell you, it really saved my life, you know. I really begin to detach, I separate myself. So the same thing right now, when I wrote this book, underneath there's an undertone, you know, about the teaching that I learned from the Buddha.
Saurabh, तुम्हें इनमें कुछ ऐसी बात लगी which sort of strikes a chord in your heart?
Yeah, I mean, Billi, may I ask you, you told us that your girlfriend left you, right? Right? And you felt failed.
Yes.
Was that the turning point in your life which made you what you are?
See, the turning point in my life was when you are experiencing so much hardship, so much disappointment, you know, you have become a pressure cooker, you know. You know, the pressure is so hard, suddenly it either bursts, you go down, or you burst and you become enlightened. You get what I mean? You know? At that point, you know, suddenly I realized, my God, all this failing is good for me. Then I realized the goodness. Then I began to look through my stories, you know, and realized that a lot of successful people have failed very miserably. In fact, the more time they fail, the more successful they become. If you were to analyze a lot of stories, not only in India.
After how many failures you come to know that? I mean, I'm asking I'm asking of a layman. How many fail? Yeah.
That's a very good question. You see, they had a study, and they found out that after interviewing about 500 successful businessmen, they found out that a lot of them fail, and they divide by the average, and they found out that they fail 3.8 times. In other words, that becomes a statistics, you see. If, for example, you are in a business and you fail one time, you don't give up, you don't commit suicide, because the statistic is 3.8 times. So that you have another 2.8 times to fail, you see, Right. So knowing this kind of failure knowledge become very important for a person wanting to reach their goal.
Right.
If I may quote from your book, you say that if you can keep on trying after 3 failures in a given undertaking, you may consider yourself a candidate for a leadership role in your present occupation.
Yes.
If you can keep on trying after a dozen failures, the seed of genius is sprouting within you.
True. In fact, I think India provides a lot of stories, I mean, your leaders, the great men in this country, if you look through their life, a lot of them go through great hardship, and finally, they become what they are today. Of course, I don't need to mention names. I mean, you all will know who they are, you know what I mean? And it happens every day. It happens every day. See?
महक, तुम्हें क्या लगता है कि हर फेलियर को एक नए रूप से देखा जा सकता है कि जिसमें एक होप हो सक्सेस की?
एब्सोल्युटली। जितने भी हमारे अब तक की जो बातचीत हो रही है उससे मैं यही अंदाजा लगा रही हूँ। इनफैक्ट जिंदगी में बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी होती है जिसके बाद हमें लगता है कि एक बार आप फेल हो गए तो हो सकता है कि अगली बार अगर आप कोशिश करें तो जरूर सक्सेसफुल होंगे। लेकिन यहाँ पर मैं बिली से एक सवाल पूछना चाहूंगी जो बहुत देर से मेरे जहन में है। I'll be asking you one question, Billi, that in your book, critics are not really very, supportive of you. They always say that you quote other people in your book. So they say that you're copying. How would you justify that?
When you want to answer that question, we have to trace to the origin. Who had the copyright to a word? I mean, then you have to trace to the creator, they never end, because this is a very big program about intellectual property, You can quote today, I can say my grandfather quote, it was started by my grandfather, So you have this problem. The important thing is, that is not the issue. The issue that we want to share that kind of wisdom. And I have compiled them into a book that people don't have to go through the life that I've gone through, don't have to waste 20, 30 years to find out what I put in my book, I've gone through that kind of stage. And the thing is, I happen to remember them. I happen to follow them. So now I put it into the book, together with my experience.
So it becomes easy for the reader. He gets everything in one book. That becomes really easy.
In fact, this book cost me more than $1 million. I've lost a lot of money. And then through that, it comes into a book. So it's better to learn from other people's mistake than your own mistake. It's a very high price to pay when you fail, very high price to pay. So it's better to try to learn and avoid the real failure that you're going to experience.
Billi, in your struggle to collect data on the issue of failure, and in the course of your moving different parts of the world, you've met several people of in high places. You've met prime ministers, presidents. Who is the person who really got impressed by your philosophy?
I think one of the person is the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Mr. Goh Chok Tong, because Singapore has become such a successful, so-called inverted comma, country. Everything so clean and sneak and span. I'm sure there are a lot of Indians always want to go to Singapore, thinking that Singapore is so perfect and things like that. See, what they don't understand is the people of Singapore have reached a stage. They are so comfortable. They don't want to fail anymore. They are scared of failing, That put them into a stage whereby they cannot go further. They didn't try new things because they're scared of failing. So that is not a very good thing. And because of my book, the Prime Minister, after receiving my book, 2 weeks later, he came out on the television. He actually quoted exactly from my book about what is happening to people in Singapore.
You also cite the case history of Japan, which after the Second World War was devastated. The Japanese have not invented many items in the consumer world, but they have, reinvented, virtually reinvented the consumer world, and today they are leaders in the profession.
In fact,
what example would go for countries like ours?
First, I must elaborate one thing. There are two things we can learn. One is countries that go through the Second World War, or in Germany, you turn out that today they are the powers, of the world. In other words, they have gone through great struggle to become very strong. The other thing is, like for example, like in India, what we can learn from Japan. Sometimes we don't need to come up with our own ideas. There are a lot of ideas. We can look at something and then we modify it, we make it better, and that will also help to enrich the country. You don't need to actually be the first person to originate it. You just have to make it better. Somebody come up with something like the Japanese. They never invent the refrigerator. It was not invented by the Japanese. The television was not invented by the Japanese. The car was not started by the Japanese. In fact, there's so many things that the Japanese never invent. But they just, go and study, and they are not scared of what people will say, whether you're copying or what. They're not scared, because copying is the first step of learning.
Well, Indians are very good at it.
It's good.
And I'm sure that once you travel around in the country, you'll find a lot of material for several books that you could write.
Yes.
And we are very happy that you are here.
Yeah.
And we hope that you dare to visit India.
Sure. In fact, I'm very proud of what India is doing, especially in the field of medicine. That you do the generic medicine, or else they will be like in Africa, people are dying of AIDS, because the medicine are too expensive, and they have to follow the rules of the Western world, and that is not the thing to do. So India has made, I must congratulate you all. You have made the right decision to dare to think for yourself.
Thank you very much, Billi, for coming to us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
थैंक यू
थैंक्स सो मच।
Thank you.
धन्यवाद राजीव जी और धन्यवाद बिली।
Okay.
ये थे हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में।
हंसी खुशी कुछ वक्त बिताए, कुछ समझे और कुछ समझाए। Check out health, culture, education, get knowledgeable folks. Evening live show, evening live show, evening live show, evening live show. मायूसों को हंसाए, बिछड़ों को मिलाए। Add on music, entertainment, and joy to your lives. Evening live show, evening live show, evening live show, evening live show.
ये है दूरदर्शन और आप देख रहे हैं नेशनल चैनल।